man who gives out my phone number to Tom Izzo without asking. Steve Mariucci. How are you, Mooch?
I was surprised he didn't have your number because he's been on your show, hasn't he?
He has.
He's been on your show already.
Yeah.
And so I thought you guys were buddies.
Well, walk me through that. Just out of the blue, he calls you. He wants to bust my Musburgers about the Wolverines.
You got to give me Eisen's number. I got to just get him. I just got to get him right now. I said, "You sure you're going to do this?" Said, "Yeah, I'm going to get him." And so, the rest is history. He got you.
And he did.
But you can get him back, Rich. Payback's always, you know what it is. And so if Michigan beats Michigan State, I will give you his number.
In football, right? But in hoops, though, that would be wrong, right? If Beeline catches Izzo, that's too close to home, isn't it? That cuts too close to the bone, Steve, right?
No, do it. And he can take it. He's a big boy.
So let's talk about what is Mike McCarthy thinking right now, Steve?
Oh, my God.
That's what he's thinking?
Hey, you know what? Hey, Rich, I went through the same thing. Not that I'm insensitive, but I was at the Niners when Steve Young, maybe more serious because he got the concussion at Arizona on Monday Night Football, and we didn't know it at the time, but essentially his career was over. Aaron Rodgers will come back at some point. Steve Young was done. And so you have to move on mentally and find the guy who can do it. I'm hoping that Brett Hundley has been there long enough to know and understand this system and rhythm up with these receivers so they don't drop off too far. But I heard you say Tony Romo. Yeah, he's a cheesehead. He's a Wisconsin guy.
I mean, he had Favre's poster on the wall. And look, sure. I said this last hour.
That's kind of a juicy rumor and everything. But I think Tony's doing great in the booth.
He is.
I love listening to the guy.
But that's neither here nor there, Steve. You know well as anybody, the guy who sits 2 seats to the left of you on game day morning, Kurt Warner, got calls when he said, "I'm definitely done." Peyton Manning got calls after he said, "I'm definitely done." Romo said, "I'm definitely done." And Cutler got a phone call. So why don't you think Romo's phone rings from the Packers today, Steve?
I don't know. I don't know if I don't know. It's a different system. Tony would be terrific there. But I don't think he'd move. I don't think he'd do it. I think he's just comfortable now in liking his new career. And I think Mike McCarthy will be confident enough in Hundley to say we can win enough games and win this division. But it would be awesome, wouldn't it? The fans would be crazy about Tony Romo. I know that.
Well, we had a couple already say that they don't want him, that they think he's been on his behind a little bit too long, and for them to, obviously this week against the Saints wouldn't be the time, but there's a bye week. Although that would be, I guess, the week to maybe coach Hundley up as well. That's at least right around the corner, Steve, right? I mean, or do you think Ted Thompson and McCarthy are really putting their heads together and having this conversation today? Do you think?
No, yeah, of course they're talking about it. But I just think they're going to settle in and figure out what Hundley can do well and keep it, I don't want to say keep it simple, but keep it the volume of offense such that he's good with it all. He's practiced it against different coverages and different fronts, and he understands the game plan well, and they win as many games with him as they can. I'm about 93% certain that's the direction they're going.
Steve Mariucci, my compadre from NFL Game Day Morning, getting set for Thursday Night Football in his backyard. Chiefs and Raiders kicking off Week 7 on Thursday night right here on the Rich Eisen Show. What did the Steelers do to the Chiefs that no one else has been able to do to the Chiefs, Steve, in like 2 years now?
They have their number, Rich. I mean, we talked about it on the show. Ben is now 7-1 against the Chiefs. And we talked about, he beat them twice last year, once in the playoffs. But the other game, regular season last year, Big Ben threw 5 touchdowns and no picks. I mean, they're a good team. The Steelers are a good team, and they kind of went through a period there for a couple of weeks where Antonio Brown is throwing Gatorade bottles, and then Ben throws 5 picks and loses, and sounds like he's tapping out. And lo and behold, the Steelers are for real. And now Martavis Bryant wants to be traded because he's not getting enough. He's not getting enough balls over there. But they're a good team, and they're going to meet again in the playoffs. They met last year, and it was 18-16 playoff game, and it's going to be like that again.
Right, but do they? Is it just as simple as saying they have a number, or because they bottled up Kareem Hunt in a way that nobody else has been able to. They discombobulated the team to the point where Andy, as you know, has been pushing every button properly, but he went for it on 4th and goal from the 2 instead of kicking a field goal that I think he's probably kicking himself about right now.
Yeah, and that was close too. You know, you had to use instant replay to figure that one out. And Pittsburgh's defense has got good team speed over there. They match up pretty well. If you can stop, I never thought I'd say this. If you can stop Kareem Hunt, you can beat them. But they make it tough for Alex Smith. They do enough in the run game. The Steelers do. They controlled the ball. That's what they did. They had it for over 36 minutes. They kept Alex Smith off the field and all of his fast little weapons off the field, and Le'Veon Bell just went off. He had 179 yards rushing. Maybe that's the recipe to beat the Chiefs, but not many people can do that because you don't have a Le'Veon Bell.
That's true. Steve Mariucci here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's wrong with the Raiders? What happened to them? 4 in a row. Steve.
Gosh, I can't wait to go see what's going on in person on Thursday Night Football. But now they have 4 losses in a row, and this was a team that some of us, when we made our predictions for possible Super Bowl, that the Raiders were a consideration. Obviously, losing Derek Carr hurt them just for a bit there, but now he's back. He looked a little. I think they protected him a little bit, and he was a little careful, but he's going to be fine. They didn't spend a lot of money on defense. When you pay your quarterback, okay, and a lot of teams have gone through this, whether it's Seattle or Baltimore with Flacco, or some of these contracts with these $100 million quarterbacks, you have to go without in certain areas of your team, and I don't know if the Raiders have spent enough money on defense yet. Reggie McKenzie will continue to sort that out in the offseason. They've got a lot of weapons on offense, great offensive line, and they have skilled guys that are getting paid. But on defense, they need to keep improving that defense for Kenny Norton. It's not good enough yet, and so you're counting on a Derek Carr to be spectacular every week, and it's not happening consistently. This game against the Chiefs is huge for both organizations. What a game we have on Thursday.
That is going to be big, no doubt about it. Steve, it's the third of the season post, basically. Third of the season's done. I give you a mulligan or a choice for Super Bowl 52. Who do you have right now?
The Eagles really impressed me the other night in terms of the NFC because other teams in the NFC, Dallas is wounded, Green Bay is wounded, the Panthers are up and down, the Falcons look vulnerable at times. I think the Seahawks are okay at times, but the Eagles look like the most complete team today. All right, the Rams are the surprise team, but I think maybe a little too young. So maybe it's the Eagles right now at the quarter pole, the third pole. Those Steelers that we saw are a contender in the AFC. The Chiefs are still a contender. The Patriots, don't ever count them out until Tom, rides off into the sunset. The Broncos looked. I was shocked. I was shocked.
Me too.
I think the whole football world was shocked to see the Giants actually just blow out the Denver Broncos in Mile High. That was crazy.
Well, and before I try to pin you down on the AFC team, I mean, Ben McAdoo coughing up the play calling. How difficult do you think that was for him?
I did that too, and you have to.
When did you do that? What were the circumstances?
Well, I called the plays when I first went to the San Francisco 49ers, and then I eventually gave it up the second year, and then I say same thing with the Detroit Lions. If you can, some coaches prefer Mike Holmgren call the plays all the way through. So did Gruden. Some coaches prefer to do that. Some coaches prefer to say, hey, I want to give this responsibility to someone else that's like-minded, all right? And he'll call plays a little bit like I will, and I have veto power, and I preferred that. So I could go screaming at officials and throwing angry flags and keeping up with the injuries and the defense and the challenges and the timeouts. And so I preferred to manage the game. But you have to find that guy who won't surprise you and run a double reverse on 4th and 17. You know what I mean? You got to have a guy. And Mike Sullivan seems to be that guy. And Ben, I think it was the good time to do that because they're having issues over there. And you know what? Mike Sullivan delivered. Now, Denver had more yards and all of that, but it looked like he had a little rhythm with Eli calling plays. It was. I hope he keeps it like that, so Ben can just focus on managing this football team and let Mike Sullivan do that job. He looks like he's very capable.
So if we hit the time machine, you say it's Eagles versus who? Super Bowl 52 right now, Steve.
You're going to make me pick one, huh?
Yes, sir.
Well, earlier in the season, I picked Patriots and Packers, and so I haven't changed my mind. Gronk's back; he looked great. And then later on, after the game last night, he was on Shark Tank. Did you watch that?
No, I missed that one. Are you serious?
All the Gronks showed up on Shark Tank. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, if Gronk stays healthy, I think maybe the Patriots find their way back there against the Eagles. That's happened before. Remember Andy Reid?
I do remember that. That. No question about it. I was in Jacksonville, Florida. I was there. You were 1 year away from joining the NFL Network. Steve.
I know it. I was up watching the game with Don Shula and his wife.
Are you serious?
And that was spectacular. Yeah. Speaking of Don Shula, you think he's happy? You think he's happy?
Yeah, they
no more undefeated teams, Rich.
It's every year. They pop champagne cork. I thought you'd say, speaking of Don Shula, that you had a 40-ounce steak for dinner last night. I thought that's where you're going on that one. Good to
I had a 90 according to that thing that you guys did.
That's right. Good to chat with you,
And then
Mooch.
Gail yelled at me.
Did she really?
Last night she goes, "How come they make fun of you with that hot cakes thing? You look stupid."
On game day morning, yes.
That's just what we do.
On game day morning, we had
that was cool.
Hot cake. Yeah, some guy came in and made pancakes in our likenesses.
That was amazing. I was into
they
that.
handed out hot takes, and then the way that we opened the show, we showed Irvin being honored in the Ring of Honor in Miami. By the way, on Saturday with a big comeback win on Georgia Tech with Warren Sapp and Ray Lewis and the family of Sean Taylor. And then we showed Marshall Faulk honored at San Diego State for getting in the College Football Hall of Fame. And then we showed a shot of Mooch in front of an empty plate for the Meat Masters Clean Plate Club.
Any normal guy would take offense to that. You know what?
You're not a normal guy. Take care, Mooch. We'll see you Thursday.
All right, thanks.
At Steve Mariucci on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you liked some of that, get some more of that on the Rich Eisen Show app. Follow all the information you see right here on the Rich Eisen Show.